Speaking of awesome, Lily Piccolo is a vision-impaired para-athlete whose journey extends beyond the sporting arena. Despite living with retinitis pigmentosa, Lily is a nationally competing paracyclist and triathlete. She now inspires others to chase their dreams through mentoring and motivational speaking. Lily not only shines as a para-athlete, but also embraces the joys of motherhood. A former teacher and passionate advocate for people with disabilities, Lily combines her career and personal story to empower and inspire. Please welcome Lily.
So I was, in my early 20s, I was at university in Newcastle studying to be an art teacher, having the time of my life. I sort of knew the vision, something wasn't quite right with the vision at that stage. I went off to the eye specialist and I remember thinking when he sat really close to me that this guy's about to hit on me or he's about to tell me some really, really bad news. And unfortunately, it was the latter. He looked me in the eye and he said, "Go away and start making memories." And that was the hardest thing. He meant go away and start making visual memories. I had a very rare, degenerative, incurable eye condition. It would take my vision over the years. I fell hard. I was devastated and got to the point where I was legally blind. So I had a choice to make. I could shrivel up and live in the shadows, or I could grab life by the balls and I could run with it. And that's exactly what I did. I could never have imagined becoming a nationally competing para-athlete. I have some ink on my right arm that says dream, believe, achieve. I had the dream I wanted to become a paracyclist. I started training and I trained and I trained. When you have the belief and you get your mind right and you surround yourself with the right people who can support you, you can achieve anything. Worked really, really hard, changed my mind, my body and my spirit, especially my mind. Just want to use everything I've learned to inspire people to be the best they can be, to chase dreams. Man, I have done stuff over the last 18 months I never thought in a million years I was capable of. People that say I can't, I say, watch me. I changed the whole narrative of my life, and you can too. Because if you own your own story, you get to write the ending. Can I say balls? Yeah. Can I say balls? Hello, everyone. I don't have slides, sorry. My talk today is literally inked on both my arms. I have a tattoo on my left arm that says hope. Oh, and I have 3 words on my right arm that say dream, believe, achieve. So this talk is going to be around those words. So I wasn't going to leave the balls in, by the way. I was going to leave it out because I thought, God, is that inappropriate? And I showed it to a few people and you need to leave the balls in there. So I left the balls in and it went up on my website and it's got so much good response because it was that film was about being emotive, being inspiring, but just also just showing that there's hope, there's and I'll talk a little bit about hope in a minute, but I just wanted to clear up the name thing. There might be some people in this room that know me as Adelina Holloway. I was born Adelina Piccolo. Adelina is my given name. Lily is a nickname I had since I was a very little girl. I married Holloway. For my professional life, I was Adelina Holloway. Everyone in my life calls me Lily, and when I became a paracyclist, the race callers were calling my number as I was coming over the line and not my name. And I said, this can't be right. And I said to my pilot, Jay, I said, find me the race caller. Said, all right, here we go. Okay. And I said, why aren't you calling me over the line? My name, you're calling all the other athletes over the line. He said, because I can't pronounce it. I went, right, okay. And then so I went Lily Piccolo. And Lily Piccolo stuck, and it's the name I use as a speaker, as a para-athlete. So I'll tell you a little bit about about me prior to, unlike the wonderful young people in this room that have spoken today, I wasn't blind since birth.
I still have 10 degrees of my my central vision left. I have retinitis pigmentosa, diagnosed at 24, legally blind at 35. So I'll talk about my diagnosis. So I was 24. I was just come out of university. I was brazen. I was extroverted. And it was the 90s, and supermodels were getting coloured contact lenses. And I went, yeah, I want a pair of those. So into that. Now, I was a bit night blind, but I didn't really sort of, I wasn't identifying as being vision impaired. I didn't know. I thought I was night blind. And, I was at university, so everyone was running into things. We were all drunk. So, so yeah, she's, it was a joke. It was a bit of a joke. And if I couldn't see anything, I'd latch on to my girlfriend and in we'd go. And so, it wasn't a big deal to be stumbling around at age 24 when you're at uni, and but I went in. I said to the optometrist in Lane Cove in Sydney, I want some blue contact lenses. And I went, all right, let's have it. How long since you had an eye test? I've got astigmatism. That's what they told me, because I couldn't read the blackboard properly. And they told me I had astigmatism. There was none of this research that we have now and this science that we have now. And he's looked into my eyes and he sat back. And he looked again and he sat back. I said, is there a problem? He said, there's a problem. And he said, I need to send you to a retinal specialist. I said, okay. Didn't tell me what it was. He had a suspicion. He said, I'm seeing something on your retina. And that's concerning. I didn't want to hear that word concerning, but I still didn't have any clue. I didn't know anyone vision impaired. I'd never heard of RP. And I went into the retinal specialist office, again in Lane Cove, and I sat in the room, and he left me in the dark for 20 minutes. He walked back in, he was moving around. I realised now he was trying to see if I could track him in the dark. I couldn't. Then he looked into my eyes, just there was no big machines or anything that, that were, he just did it with his looking into my retina. And he literally, I kid you not, sat so close to me. In fact, I don't say it in the movie, but his hand on my knee. And I went, what's going on here? I was in trouble. Do I have to report you to someone? Or, and he said, you've got an incurable vision condition called retinitis pigmentosa. He was brutal. And if I can say anything to the young students of ophthalmology in the room, soften the blow, man. Soften the blow, because I was told I'd have 5 years and I'd be living in the dark. Oh, man. And then, then I was given a piece of paper. And speaking of Retina Australia, what they were called back then, I got a piece of paper pushed across by the receptionist when I went to pay the bill. And on it was a phone number, Retina Australia. I got home. I was beside myself. And I woke my then partner, who ended up being I'm going blind. I'm going blind. He's like, what? You've just come off a night shift. What are you, mad woman? What are you talking about? Anyway, I rang Retina Australia. I rang that phone number. I got this lovely lady, and I wish I could remember her name. And the first thing I said to her is, are you blind? And she giggled a little bit, and she said, no, I'm not blind. I still had some residual vision. I said, I've just been given this diagnosis. She said, I need a second opinion. I've got to speak to someone. So she suggested Paul Beaumont. Is he still in the game? I don't know. But anyway, some of you might know Paul Beaumont, the ophthalmologist. And I went to Paul Beaumont, and I had my first experience of a peripheral vision test. Some of us might know them, and they're little lights. And I failed that miserably. And then I had a couple of other things. They put the dye in your eyes, and you then turn jaundice, you're then yellow, and all this was new. And then I walked into Paul's office, Dr. Beaumont's office, and there were 6 students in there with him. And then, right, we're going to take some photos now. Bang, 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 bang. And there was a massive screen that size in front of me. And I had enough vision that I looked up, it looked like an abstract painting. And what I was looking at was a dying retina. And I said, is it true I've got 5 years? And he said, no. He said, everyone's different. It's a progressive disease. Everyone gets it differently. And the lady from Retina Australia actually said to me, look, I know people in their 80s have still got residual vision, and then I know children that are totally blind with the condition, so it's such a spectrum. That made me feel better. And he said, look, I don't need to see you for another 5 years. I remember him saying to the students in the room, actually, this is your lucky day, that's textbook RP. And I went, excuse me, I'm here. Hello, patient, right here. I went, well, I'm glad I made those 6 students see textbook RP that day. And he said to me, Dr. Beaumont said to me, go away and start making memories. And I still get hit in the heart by that. But you know what? I am so incredibly pleased that he said that to me, because that's exactly what I did. So for the next 10 years, from 25 to 35, I went and lived a life, a fairly sighted life. I got married, I had children, I started working in a remote community as a school teacher. I worked in a disadvantaged Aboriginal community. I started working with children on the spectrum, and then that ignited my passion for working with people with difference, with disability, with challenges. I knew that's what I had to do. I didn't know where my vision was going at that stage. I was still driving, and I drove till I was 35, till I was made legally blind at 35. When I had my license taken from me, and it was taken from me because I nearly hit a kid on a motorcycle, and the ophthalmologist, I was in a rural community, and I was in Albury at an ophthalmologist there, and I had my children little. And he said, have you stopped driving yet? And I said, no. And he said, you need to. And he said, you know why? And he pointed at my children. He said, there, why? Well, I stopped driving that day. And my life changed incredibly at 35, but I got on with it, and I started to, my vision after childbirth and through the next sort of few years, my vision started to deteriorate and deteriorate and deteriorate. By this stage, I went to Vision Australia. I started getting some technology to help me, magnifiers, and just, you know, what was around back then. Jem Elstan was the orthoptist at Vision Australia. Some of you may know Jem. And he was awesome. Vision Australia were awesome when I went in. And they offered me a job. They said, you want to come work for us? And I went, yeah, okay. So I started working for Vision Australia. I did several roles over the years with Vision Australia. The most impactful one, I think, was transitioning hundreds and hundreds of clients over to the NDIS when it first rolled out. We didn't know what we were doing. The NDIS didn't know what they were doing. You know, we were learning. We're all learning as we went, you know. But I helped so many people. I helped so many people. I helped them get incredible plans, and it changed their lives. I had partners and spouses and parents of people with vision impairment say to me, you've given us back a life, you know, and not just the person with the vision impairment, but the support. You know, they got their lives back. They weren't the carers anymore. And I, despite all the bad press about the NDIS, I think it has changed a lot of lives, not just people with vision impairment, but families and support people, most definitely. So let's get to the para-athletic stuff. How did I get that person? I don't know if the photo's up there. Is it of me on the bike? Yeah. All right. So I worked many years with Vision Australia. I did some good stuff with them, and I was very happy with what I was doing with them. And then it was time to see Professor John Grigg. And I was best to speak at the Inherited Retinal Disease Symposium in Adelaide a couple of weeks ago. And he was in the room, and I got to say this in front of the doctor. That has given me so much hope. And it's a shame he's not here today, but he did hear me say this. So I was at a bit of a crossroads. I didn't know sort of where I was going. I'd done my work at Vision Australia. I knew I'd done my work. Something was itching. I had a fire in my belly to do something more, and I didn't know what that was going to be. COVID had been and gone, and I saw Professor Grigg about getting some genetic testing. Jem Elstan had said, you know, see Prof Grigg, he'll, you know, get you on the list to get some genetic testing. So I had a geneticist. They took my blood. 6 months later, I get the call from the geneticist in Wollongong. And she said, we've identified your spelling error in your DNA. That's how she put it. And I thought that was a really, really great way to talk about the anomaly in my DNA that had caused the RP. And she said, we've identified it. I'll never forget that day, because I knew that there was a 70% chance they'd find it and a 30% chance they wouldn't, and I was just so pleased. And then I had a follow-up with Professor Grigg over Zoom, and he blew my mind with all the science, as he does. And then at the end of the, sorry, I still get quite emotional about this. At the end of the talk with, that appointment with Professor Grigg, he looked down the camera at me and he said, "Lily, finally there's hope." And within a week of that, I got hope tattooed on my left arm. And for those people with vision impairment in the room, it's very pretty. It's cursive writing, and it's just on my left forearm. So whenever I'm having a shitty day, excuse my language, I look down, I look down at that little hope tattoo, and I know there's hope. So now I knew there was hope. So I put that in what I call my God box. I gave it to the universe, and I know all those scientists and doctors and ophthalmologists and researchers and all those incredible people were going to find a treatment for this one day. I just knew it. I knew it. I believed it. And then I had belief tattooed on the other arm before I had the other two. And so that I knew. So I let hope drive me. I let hope drive me. But now what was I going to do? I had to wait for them to find me a cure. What was I going to do in the meantime? And I was always active. And someone said, "Oh, you ever tried tandem bike cycling?" And I went, "Nah." And there was a tandem bike organisation in the Illawarra called Excite Tandems, and a blind gentleman called Jeff Stratton had a bunch of tandems. I called him. I said, "You reckon I could get a ride on a tandem?" And he went, yeah, no worries, come on. And I was picked up, jumped on, and I fell in love. And I just, this is what I want to do. But I thought I was just going to do it recreationally. And then I get a call from Jeff a few weeks later, and he said, "I've got a professional triathlete needing to learn how to be a pilot." So the pilot is the person on the front of the tandem. She's my eyes, she's my navigator. We work as a team. I say she because when I compete it needs to be a female, but I've had male pilots. And he said, "Yeah, I think you're going to get on really well with her. She just needs to practice because she's been asked to pair up with a male triathlete in Newcastle, but she needs to practice and you're local," and she's local. I said, "Okay." So the next day, this 6-foot-tall Amazonian goddess rocks up to my front door. And I looked up and went, "Oh God, I'm in trouble. I'm in trouble here." And, "Hey, I'm Jay, da, da, da." Anyway, we got on the bike together and we just clicked. We clicked and we talked nonstop for a couple of hours while we were riding around Wollongong. And then before the end of that ride, she said, "You want to compete?" I said, "Pardon?" She said, "You want to compete? How about a triathlon? Do a triathlon with me." I said, "No, Lily doesn't run." And she said, "No, come on." And I said, "Oh, let's stick to the cycling. I'll do some." And then, so that was 3 years ago. And then we did our first time trial at Ramwick. And someone said, "You need to even be looked at, to do this, at an elitist sort of level, you need to be going about 35 kilometres an hour on average." Anyway, we got on the track and we went, "Let's just give it a crack, And we came in about 36 kilometres an hour, and someone stopped us at the end of the race and went, "You girls are good." I said, "Are we?" They said, "Yeah, you girls are good." I looked at Jay, she looked at me, and then we get someone screaming out from the sideline, and he was a Paralympic cyclist on a trike. He had a physical disability, and he said, "See you at Nationals, ladies." I went, "You reckon?" She goes, "Yeah, let's do it." She said, "I'm going to take a year off. I'm going to be your pilot and guide for a year." That sacrifice she made for me. And she said, "But you've got to take it seriously." I said, "Yeah." I said, "If you give me a year," I said, "let's do this." So to fast forward through my achievements over that year, we became the New South Wales state champs. We became the New South Wales triathlon state champs. I did several triathlons. There's a whole bunch of stuff. It's on my website if you want to have a look. But then we went to nationals. And I ran into that guy and I said, "Here we are." And he said, "I knew it. I knew you girls were going to be here." So that was nationals in Ballarat last year, and we won a bronze medal. And we were so incredibly pleased. Now, out of that, we were then approached. Now, the Paracycling World Cup is never in Australia, and this year it was in Australia. And we were approached and said, we want to invite you girls to the Paracycling World Cup in Adelaide. It's usually a merit-based selection, but we want to invite you. And I said, Jay, can you just give me a couple more months? She said, yeah, absolutely. So we went to Adelaide, and it was on a race car track. It was on a race car track, and I'm a bit of a rev head. And I said, we're going to cycle on a race car track. She said, yeah, let's do it. And we're time trialists, so we like to go quick. I'm no climber. I'm not built to climb. I'm built to go quick. And so is Jay. And so we got out there with the best in the world. And the Italians were 21 years old. Clearly I'm not. And neither was Jay. We started this a little bit later. And we came fourth in the time trial. We were 30 seconds behind the third place bronze medalists. We'd been on the bike competing for a year, and we were fourth in the world. And we were at 40 kilometres an hour on average. My biggest achievement so far, no doubt. So, and I'm still competing. I go to Nationals in Perth in January. We've done a few more things this year. I've used a couple of other pilots because Jay's gone on to do other things. But I can't even begin to tell you, I just never thought I would be here, but it was because I had a dream. Now I'll talk about these three words. So I hope I'm not running out of time. So the dream is the goal, whatever you want to call it. It's the goal, it's the passion, it's the dream. I had a dream. I had that dream. The belief was, so my belief was visualization. I visualize everything I do. I visualize coming over the finish line. I visualize post-race hugs with Jay. I visualized the race caller calling us over. I visualized all of that. I visualized post-race celebration. I visualized all those things. So so I had the dream and I had the belief I could do it. And then I had to achieve it. And the achievement's the work. You've got to put the work in. There's no doubt that lovely young Paralympian swimmer, you saw how hard she would have worked to get to where she had to go. I put the work in, and I needed the bike. Speaking of the NDIS and how we have, a love-hate relationship with it, I was denied my tandem bike 3 times. I had the most extraordinary, I was just talking to the guide dog ladies about extraordinary occupational therapist who fought and fought and fought for me to get that bike. Had she not fought for me for a year to get my race tandem, I wouldn't be here speaking to you today. I had to surround myself with people. I had to surround myself with support. I had to surround myself with, everything I didn't do this on my own. So my message is to anyone chasing that dream and want to push their boundaries is surround yourself with your support networks of people. You need those people. I started asking people for help. I didn't know how to do this. I didn't know how to be a para-athlete. I didn't know how to live like one. I didn't know how to eat like one. I didn't know how to train like one. But I learned and I worked really hard. I took the sacrifice of stepping back from work for a year to do it. But everything I've talked to you about today, right from diagnosis through to my professional career as a teacher, as a disability advocate, working for Vision Australia, and now the para-athlete journey, and being a mum, and my para-athlete journey has brought me to this point in this day. So my goal now is to use all of that to inspire others to chase dreams beyond their boundaries. That's my goal. And if I can do that by just getting up in front of people or speaking to schools, I've done some work in schools about not just people with disability to chase dreams, but anyone, I've spoken to kids in schools and just said, to chase dreams no matter what they are, and if you're not quite sure what your dream or goal is, then try stuff. Give it a crack. You may not like it, so go move on to the next thing. I think the young people in the room are very blessed because they get to start to write their story now. I started later, that was all a prelude to writing this chapter of my story, changing the narrative, and I have so much more to do. But I could go on and on about other stuff I've done. I walked across Spain earlier this year, 120-kilometre walk across Spain with 6 other vision impaired travellers, which was awesome. That's a whole nother story. But so now when I get an idea in my mind and another goal, I just chase it. I chase it because, you know what? I'm going to write the ending to my story, and it's going to be a damn good one. So thank you for listening to me today.